Mr. Pretorius. Good morning,
Morning,
everybody.
DCJ.
Good morning, Ms. Williams. Thank you. Mr. Pretorius.
Mr. Chairman, the Commission has, over the past week and as late as yesterday, received a number of applications made on behalf of implicated persons to place versions before the Commission and to apply for the right to cross-examine. These applications are, I understand, before you, Mr. Chair. This is also an opportunity to deal with some even later applications, at least one, and it may be appropriate before you give directions in relation to these applications, Chair, for you to allow the implicated party legal representatives to place themselves on record for the purpose of the session where you will give directions.
That's fine, but before that, I need to be sure that I have all the applications with me that are supposed to be with me. I have a file here which I have had for the past at least week, Exhibit D3 applications in terms of the rules of the Commission. Now, as of last week, there were 4 applications in that file. One was by Mr. Mzwanele, another one was by Mr. Major General Nonopi. I think there was one by Mr. Mdolo, if I'm not mistaken, and another one. I know that in terms of arrangements that were made last week, there were papers that were to be filed yesterday. I have seen, I think, 1 or 2. I've seen, I think, an application by Mr. Ajay Gupta. I've seen correspondence from the attorney for the former president indicating a certain position. I've seen, I think, an affidavit, or maybe a supplementary affidavit by Mr. Mzwanele. But I don't know whether those have been put into this file already or not, because if they haven't, we would need to have this file maybe updated so that then when I deal with them, I know that I've got everything with me.
We were under the impression, Chair, that the attorney for the Commission would in fact provide you with a properly ordered set of applications yesterday. If that hasn't been done, then it must be done in order. But perhaps to avoid any further delays, I should on record that there's a draft application in addition to the ones you have made on behalf of Ms. Lynn Brown and 2 others.
Yeah.
But perhaps, Chair, for the present at least, those that are present and wish to make applications should just place themselves on record, and you can decide how you wish to deal with it from there. There is an anxiety amongst both the legal team and amongst the representatives of the implicated parties that the applications be heard this week and perhaps even tomorrow if possible.
Yeah. One, the Commission's attorney was in touch with me yesterday, and he did offer to bring papers to my residence at a certain stage in the afternoon. And I said if he sent them email them to my secretary for purposes of yesterday, that would be fine. But he undertook that he would make sure that there are hard copies available this morning. But he was not going to be available himself because he has some personal matter to attend to, but he indicated that one of his an attorney from his firm would be here. So he did mention that. So I'm quite happy that we do the following. One, as you suggest, counsel representing parties that have filed such applications place themselves on record. And two, I think I can then discuss the way forward in regard to the applications, particularly as to when they can be dealt with. And if we are able to dispose of that, then I can hear Ms. Williams, the balance of Ms. Williams' evidence.
Indeed, that is the plan.
Yes. Okay.
May I also place on record then that, as you know, Advocate Maleka will deal with the applications on behalf of the legal team.
Thank you. Thank you. So maybe then counsel representing parties that have filed applications may just come up and place themselves on record. Mr. Helens.
May it please you, Mr. Commissioner, I confirm that in accordance with the arrangements made last week with the evidence leaders and indeed yourself, Mr. A.J. Gupta has filed an application in terms of the rules of this commission to cross-examine Ms. Mentor and Mr. Maseko. He has also filed an affidavit in respect of both those parties, setting out his version of the events, and from which he clearly emerges the areas of dispute between the parties. There's a small typographical error which I won't bother you with in paragraph 5 of the application, which is obviously separate from the affidavit. The wisdom of the computer changed the word precognized into recognized and makes the sentence unfathomably obscure.
Yes.
But the word is precognized.
Yes.
I do not intend to argue it now. I just give you a glimpse that in the applications to cross-examine, we will want to take on boldly the methodology of the preparation of witnesses for cross-examination, the issue of the limitation either in time or subject matter of cross-examination, and the linked apparent suggestion, but we see this in the press, we don't see it yet from our learned friends, that the right to cross-examine is linked to an undertaking to actually give evidence here. But I don't argue any of those points.
Yes.
They are foreshadowed in the applications,
Yes.
and I merely confirm that on behalf of Mr. A.J. Gupta, the evidence of Mr. Maseko and Ms. Mentor is sought to be cross-examined.
Yes, maybe let me raise with you, Mr. Helens, issues relating to the way forward so that other counsel representing other parties will also know what I have in mind, and they can begin to consider whether they would be happy with that. One, I assume that the Commission's legal team does not intend to file any affidavit in response to the affidavit by Mr. Ajay Gupta and any other implicated person who has applied. But if they do, that is the Commission's legal team, if they do wish to file some affidavit, that will obviously affect the issue of the date when the hearing can be held. But assuming they don't intend to file such an affidavit, what is your assessment? Is it that you would like to file any heads, or you don't really feel that you need to file any heads? from my side, not necessarily because I want heads, but if council thinks that it's necessary and they would like to have time, obviously I would like to give consideration to that. So that's another matter that may affect the question of when the hearing can happen.
In response to that, let me say that I'm fully in favor of, I think this is an obvious point, by the way, of you being as assisted as possible by the arguments.
Yes.
So if if an argument by myself were to be put forward and my learned friends would have to deal with it on their feet, so to speak, you may be less served by their answer to mine. Equally the other way around.
Yes.
And I do not seek a delay. If it were up to me, I would argue the entire question right now.
Yes.
And cross-examine, if I'm allowed, Mr. Maseku later in the week. There's just a little bit of work I have to do.
Yes.
But we've provisionally suggested Thursday, but no one is bound by that at all, including yourself.
Yes.
So in the interests of you, sir, I would suggest that heads be filed by both parties so that no one is caught unawares. But I don't make that submission in order to delay in any way. I can do it right now.
Yes, yes. Okay, no, that's fine. I think what I suggest that what we should do is the following. One, I allow each council who represents an implicated party who has applied to place themselves on record and indicate their position in regard to the two issues I've raised with you. But I am wondering whether once they have done that, we shouldn't do one of two things. Either we resume the evidence of Ms. Williams while counsel for the implicated persons and the relevant member or members of the Commission's legal team get time to try and work out what they might all suggest I should make directions in terms of if there is to be heads of argument to be filed, when should they be filed, and a suggestion maybe on possible dates for hearing, and then I can look at either that date or those dates. So when we have a break or when we are done with her, depending how long her evidence will be, then I can be informed of any agreement that the parties might have reached. I can look at the terms. If I'm happy, I can make that my directions. If I'm not happy, I can adjust here and there. What do you think? Oh, we would either do that on the basis that we resume Ms. Williams' evidence and continue, and maybe at tea break or when she finishes, whichever happens first, and then we will then look at what the product of your discussions will have been. Or if you think that it won't take long, I could stand down for 10 minutes without resuming her evidence and allow the parties to talk, and then you come back. So, but it may well be that we should, I don't know how long Ms. Hofmeyer expects Ms. Williams to take.
Chair, I don't envisage more than an hour.
Okay, all right. So maybe in that event, we should resume her evidence, hearing her evidence, while that time is used by counsel on all sides to discuss with the Commission's legal team possible terms of the direction that I could consider issuing.
As it pleases you, Mr. Commissioner, should I or should I not in those discussions include the topic of the right to cross-examine being linked to an undertaking to in presence in South Africa to give evidence? Mr. Maleka suggests I should, with a vigorous nod of his head.
I think that you should feel free to raise any issue that you think you would like to know in advance if it might affect anything.
So be it.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Let's get counsel for other implicated persons to come forward, place themselves on record, and confirm that they are happy with the arrangement that we have just made.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, my surname is Jubair. I am instructed by Van der Merwe attorneys in respect of the evidence led by Mr. Jonas. We filed an application on behalf of Mr. AJ Gupta, Mr. Rajesh Gupta, and Mr. Duduzane Zuma to cross-examine. I also equally would favor the opportunity to rather file heads of argument before we argue, and we will take up all the other issues with the evidence leaders.
Okay. Thank you. And you are happy with the arrangement that we have just
Indeed,
provisionally made? Okay, thank you.
May it please you, Mr. Chairman, I'm Jaap Silje from the Pretoria Bar, instructed by Mr. Stockenstroom Fushia for Mr. Fana Shlongwane.
Yes.
As you said, an application has already been filed on behalf of Mr. Shlongwane.
Yes.
I don't want to repeat, we will abide your
Yes.
ruling, and we think it's a good arrangement that we meet with the legal team in order to try and sort out the
Yes.
time
Yes.
aspects of an application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Silje.
Esteemed Chairperson, I'm Simi Libala from the Pretoria Bar Senior Counsel. I appear with my colleague, Mr. Dusenga, who has already placed us on record.
Yes.
We appear for the former executive political head of the Department of Public Enterprises, Mrs. Lynn Brown. We stand before you as supplicants because we have an unsigned application. Our client is based in Cape Town. A signed copy is going to be made available this afternoon. We've taken the liberty to provide a copy to our esteemed evidence leaders, colleagues, and have no objection to the copy. We anchor on the heel of our colleagues' approach in accepting that we'll draw heads to assist the work of the Commission, to inquire into, to report on, to make findings, and eventually make recommendations. The only issue that bewails us that is likely to happen is there might be a debate on the interpretation of implicating. It appears as if our learned friends, on behalf of the evidence leaders, are likely to say Ms. Brown has not been implicated, which becomes a subjective argument or an objective argument. And we will join issue if need be, if we're called upon to do.
Okay, no, that's fine. I must confess that at least in terms of evidence that has been placed, that we have had, obviously, I might not know any statements that the Commission's legal team might have in their possession that might not have reached me. But in terms of evidence that has been led over the past 2 weeks, I don't remember Ms. Brown's name being mentioned by any witness. But at this stage, I'm not going to say anything. I'll wait to see what your discussions with the Commission's legal team produces. It may well be, from what you have said, it may well be that you or your client take the view that she has been implicated in one way or another, even though her name might not have been mentioned by any witness. Or it may well be that you or she knows something that along the lines that she will be implicated in due course, and therefore she would like to make the application already. So I would leave that to be discussed between yourself and the Commission's legal team. But it may well be that if she is not implicated as yet, the application might not be properly considered until she is implicated. But we won't have a debate about that at this stage. It may well be that in the discussions that you will have with the Commission's legal team, you may persuade one another one way or another. So I will look at the issue only when I have to.
May I interpose?
Yes.
Esteemed Chair, please do not agonize much. The facts which are stubborn before this commission will demonstrate that.
Yes.
There are clips, there's a record to that effect. We haven't set our teeth on it to say, rain or shine will demonstrate it. If it's in the abstract, it is there, it's standing before the commission. But to assure you also, term of reference 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 relates directly to our client, who is the former political head of the Department of Public Enterprises. Now,
Yes.
a witness comes before the commission and say, the Gupta says we worked with her. And the terms of reference brings her to the fore in line with those specific paragraphs that we've mentioned in terms of the commission's terms of reference. Now,
Yes.
it leaves us home and cold as to whether could it be interpreted as a direct implication, as viewed objectively or as viewed by the evidence leaders. Hence we say, do not agonize much,
Yes.
we'll demonstrate it.
Yes.
If need be.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
With your leave, Mr. Chair, it's necessary to,
Oh, I think there's still counsel for implicated persons.
just before
Yes.
that, in relation to the address that you've just heard,
Yes,
it is correct that we received the unsigned statement this morning.
Yes.
But it's necessary to place on record that despite my learned friend's statement that there was no objection, obviously the rights of the Commission legal team are reserved in relation both to the procedure adopted as well as to the substance of the application.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Henry
Yes.
Cowley, counsel from Johannesburg Bar. I'm instructed by MVP attorneys. We represent Ms. Kaunda. As
Yes.
you know, we have an application for cross-examination.
Yes.
We also support the notion to file heads of argument, and we also support the
Discussion.
discussion. Thank you.
Yes. No, thank you very much. There's still one more. Thank you.
A pleasant morning, Chair.
Thank you.
It's Suella, and I concur that I still represent both officers from the Hawks, Advocate Mtolo and the Major General, Nonopi. I place it on record, Chair, that we also harbor the desire to cross-examine both Ms. Feki Mento and the Honorable Mr. Jonas. The reason being, the evidence they adduced before the Honorable Commission has somehow detrimentally implicated both our clients. And the analogy of such evidence necessitate that cross-examination.
No, don't move the application yet.
Yeah, I want, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I accept that they are implicated.
And further, we are happy with your benevolent guidance and the current arrangement.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The one thing that I want to raise with you following the discussion I had with you here in the commission when you placed yourself on record last week is just to clarify one thing. I had mentioned in regard to, I don't know whether, I think only one of your clients. I don't know whether it was Major General or was it Brigadier General Nonopi, But in regard to one of them, I had said, I had gained the impression when I read the affidavit that it might not be the full version in relation to the incidents, and I had asked you to reflect and take instructions whether it's a full version, because that's important that in regard to the incidents or allegations implicating the persons, we have the full version. What is the position? Is what we have a full version?
Indeed, that's extremely crucial, and we've ventilated those issues by filing a supplementary affidavit where we have comprehensively replied to each and every allegation,
Yes.
and to set out those issues which are in dispute.
Yes.
We have done so as we undertook on our last
Yes.
appearance
Okay.
on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. So the papers were evenly filed with the attorney for the commission.
Yes.
To answer you, Chair, yes, we have
Yes.
supplemented our affidavit,
Yes.
not only of Major General Mnonopi,
Yes.
but also of Advocate Ndolo.
Dollar. Okay. No,
Yes.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. From what I've just said now and part of what I said last week, then all counsel and attorneys for implicated persons will have gathered that I require a full version in regard to allegations implicating persons. That's important. Part of the reason why it's important is it will give me an idea of how much time, if I grant permission to cross-examine, I should grant. But also, it's important to give me an idea of what the cross-examination what it will cover. So, I know that Mr. Helens very properly took note of this last week and announced that he was to make sure that there was a full version from his client. I'm hoping that all counsel have taken note and that if there are instructions that what has been put up is not a full version, when they discuss with the Commission's legal team, allowance can be made for them to file whatever supplementary affidavit to ensure a full version. But that will be the subject of discussion between all parties and subject to my approval. Mr. Pretorius, you want to say something?
Yes. Chair, may I ask you to reconsider your direction in relation to whether the legal team should meet with the counsel for implicated parties before Ms. Williams resumes her evidence. The position is that both Ms. Maleka and Mr. Mokoena, who are assisting in the presentation of the evidence of Ms. Williams, would prefer to be present when
Yes.
her evidence continues so that they can render the assistance that they have been rendering
Yes.
to Ms. Hofmeyr.
Okay. Okay.
So the preference from the legal team would be, by your leave, if you would consider just allowing the break to take place now, a short break before the evidence resumes.
Okay. How much time do you think would be necessary, Mr. Maleka?
Can I suggest that Ms. Williams continues with evidence immediately, and that during tea break we will discuss such matters as you've directed? We will do so together with our learned friends during the tea break.
Oh, okay. That's rather different.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think.
Well, I'm receiving instructions from Mr. Mokoena there, obviously overridden by Mr. Maleka.
Chair, we would prefer that the evidence of Ms. Williams be concluded without further delay, and thereafter, in the course of tea break, we will discuss matters that you have suggested we do.
Well, we are at 10:30. If we just took a 30 minutes break up to 11, would that not be enough to finalize the issue? And then when we come back, then maybe we might have to do without the tea break and then continue. Ms. Williams, would you be fine with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, all right. I think let's rather take the break now until 11 o'clock, and then we resume. We adjourn.